action. So here we go. Today we're going to talk about surveys, studies, and experiments. Now, it's unrealistic for me to expect you to write every single thing that you are going to see today. I don't want you to have to do that. In fact, the reality is most of this is pretty common sense. So there are some specific words that I want you to write down just so that you have them to look back over. But I don't want you to have to write down every single example. And tomorrow I'm going to give you a sheet that's going to have some examples so that you can have those in your binder to look back over. But I don't expect you to write everything today. But we'll start. Surveys are used to collect information. If everyone involved with the school were surveyed, then the survey would involve the entire population. A survey in which every member of the population is polled is called the census. And then if only 100 people are selected at random from the school and were surveyed, then the survey would involve a sample. So the two things that I want you to write down for sure are that the population is every single last person. It includes the population, whether it be the population of the school, whether it be the population of the United States of America. The population is everyone. If you were to do a survey of the population, you would have to ask every single person. Now, how often does this happen? Not very often. We can't even get the parents at PLP, which is only 1,400 or 1,500 people, to complete a survey. Imagine how hard it would to complete a survey across the United States. The census, Max, you just said, is what? Every 10 years. We do a census in the United States. So our census is going to be like 1990, 2010, 2000. So 2020 will be the next time we do a census. You guys will be probably looking for a job. It's actually a pretty cool job. I did it one year. I did it for the 2000 census. And basically what happens, anybody who does not respond within a timely manner, our government sends people to their houses over and over and over until finally they get information from that person, or they talk to someone else in the neighborhood who can attest that the house is empty, or help them get in touch with who lives there and is not responding. So it was good money for me. I can't remember how much they paid, but wasn't too bad. Wasn't a bad summer job. A survey is biased, and I have that circled. You want to put that in your notes. A survey is biased if its design favors certain outcomes. And if the survey, this says, if the students above only surveyed basketball players and their parents, then the survey would be biased towards accepting the team. That wasn't from an example, but if you just choose one particular group to survey, then a lot of times you have a biased survey. A sample is unbiased if it is random, or if not based on any predetermined characteristics of the population. If you send a survey to 100 students which were selected at random, then the survey would be unbiased. You see biased surveys every single time you turn a TV on, right? How many commercials have you watched where you hear 4 out of 5 people, right? If you're standing there in a grocery store and they said, here, we're going to give you a free box of Wheat Thins, would you like to say that Wheat Thins are your favorite? What are most people going to say? Yes. Unless you're Jason, who hates Wheat Thins, most people are going to agree that they're better than whatever else they're trying to compare it to. We see biased surveys all the time. In fact, that's how our companies normally sell their products nowadays. They try to tell you how wonderful it is, and then do a survey with their mom and their dad and maybe the neighbors or something. 5 out of 5 people, yeah, 5 out of 5 people love this product, and they ask their 5 children. Yes. It's still going to be biased. If we did a survey here at the school and we randomly selected students who were picking up Chick-fil-A and asked them if we should extend the lunch program, what do you think they're going to say? Yes. If we randomly walked classroom to classroom and you found a group of students who everybody has their lunch packed every single day and they never order anything, obviously they're going to have a different opinion. So you have to, in order to be unbiased, a random entire population. Here are a couple of examples. It says state whether each survey would produce a random sample. Asking every 10th person coming out of a theater how many times a week they go to the theater to determine how often city residents support the performing arts. Seriously. Obviously, if you're at, that's like asking everybody at the baseball game if they like baseball, right? If you're asking the people coming out, I know some of the moms in there don't like it. No chance. Asking, obviously that is going to be biased. Surveying people going into a pet store to find out if the city's residents support the building and maintaining of a dog park. And a box containing the name of every student in the school. 100 names are randomly pulled out of the box, and those students are asked their opinion on new cafeteria rules. That's going to be your best bet. Asking every player at a golf course what sport they prefer to watch on TV. A lot of them, I bet a lot of them wouldn't say golf. I'm not quite sure who wants, you like to watch golf? I was going to say golf. It's really hard to watch golf, I think. Yeah, you could. All right, what about calling 100 randomly selected numbers and asking their opinions on local tax? That's going to be unbiased. And going to a football game and asking 100 random fans about their favorite sport. Oh, really? Mr. Volk says football is different than baseball, but we're going to go with bias either way. Anybody have a question about any of this so far? All right, if you were going to choose, it says Christopher wants to determine the most desired location for a senior class trip. Which questions will get him the answer he is seeking? Obviously, when you mention one particular thing, that is leading everyone in that direction, right? How many of you, when you're trying to talk mom into what to cook for dinner, right? You're like, oh, tacos would sound really good, but if I have to have spaghetti, then I'll eat it, right? That's what they do at my house. Well, if I have to eat that, then I guess it's okay. We definitely, do you like Disneyland is going to prompt most people to say what? Yes, let's go to Disneyland. Which is better, Kings Island or Cedar Point? If you go and ask 100 teenagers that, Most of them are going to choose between the two. They're not going to say, oh no, I want to go this place. But where would you most like to go on the senior trip? That's going to be our most unbiased question. Well, normally what happens when you're doing a survey, especially with something like that, is even though you would get so many answers, like you would take the top 5 and then let everybody vote on those top 5. So you would survey around and see what's the most popular and let them choose between those. Which question will determine the most popular horror movie at school? Obviously, asking if you enjoyed the horror movie isn't necessarily going to tell you the most popular. Definitely talking about romance or comedy isn't going to help us. But just giving a very general, what is your favorite horror movie, is going to put us in the right direction. You need to write these 2 terms down. In fact, there are going to be 5 terms on this slide that you need to write down. The first one is an observational study. An observational study, or in an observational study, individuals are observed and no attempt is made to influence the results. You need to write that down. An experiment, something is intentionally done to people, animals, or objects, and then the response is observed. Both of those sentences are important. You need to understand the difference between an observational study and an experiment. Now, if, and this is a very big if, I ever decided to get my doctorate in mathematics education, I already know what my hypothesis would be for my doctoral thesis. I believe that the level of fluency in multiplication facts at the end of 3rd grade is an indicator as to how successful you will be in high school mathematics. Now, there are 2 ways that I could go about in terms of proving or disproving my hypothesis. Great. All right. There are sometimes, that's why it's an experiment, or that's why it's an observational study, so you can see what's going to happen. It's a hypothesis, and not all hypotheses, and we'll talk about that here in a second, are going to be perfect. If I did an observational study, I could go ahead and do that now. I could look at your permanent records, and I could use either your EOG score, or I could look at one particular part of how you did with multiplication facts, or I could use your math grades in 3rd grade, whatever particular part of your previously earned scores, I could use that as an indicator, and then I could use the level you're doing right now in Algebra 2 as an indicator. But that would be observational, because I have not done anything at all other than just look at information. Observational, I do not do anything. I just look at the information that is available. However, in an experiment, I would actually change or go down into the lower school and work with a group of 3rd graders and try to make sure that they were fluent with their multiplication facts. And then I would have to wait to see whether it was an indicator whether my work made a difference or not.